Welcome to Beyond the Review, customer conversations about digital transformation success, presented by Raven Intelligence. I'm your host and the founder and CEO of Raven Intel, Bonnie Tinder. Well, welcome. Today we have two remarkable guests with us. Amanda Upcharski, Director of HR Integrations and Operations at Patriot Growth Insurance Services, and Jenny Rosengren, Manager of Client-Side Services at HRMS Solutions, a premier consulting firm and partner of UKG Software. Patriot is a national insurance brokerage firm renowned for its vigorous mergers and acquisitions activity. They embarked on a transformational HR journey powered by UKG and implemented payroll, human resources, and time with both UKG Ready and Pro. They worked with HRMS, who helped to guide them during their implementation with consulting and project management services, and ultimately became an extension of their team. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. Really excited about the conversation today.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Nice to be here.
So, Amanda, could you start off by telling us a little bit about some of the drivers that prompted this project for you?
Yeah. Our company is, as you mentioned, very much into mergers and acquisitions, and our prior platform was just not able to accommodate our needs from a holistic perspective. We did have all the modules at our last company, but we really needed something that was more specific, a little bit more configurable, able to accommodate our unique environment, which is allowing our companies, our agencies, to maintain a level of autonomy. So with that comes specific permissions and building things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to build in every platform.
And also the ability to bring on new businesses easily into your common structure.
Correct.
Awesome. And, as you went and looked and considered your alternatives, could you walk us through your selection process? How did you approach it? And what were some of the vendors that you looked at? What was that like for you?
Yeah, we looked at quite a few of them. We did look at Workday. We looked at UKG. We looked at Ceridian and ADP. One of the biggest decisions for us was how much we could allow our agencies to see within the platform of the one that we would eventually choose. In UKG, we were able to build essentially a permission group for every single person if we wanted to. So being able to have that flexibility and build exactly what we needed for each agency, and the ability to do that was probably the deciding factor at that point.
Great. And in terms of the implementation, I'm sure you considered that as an integral part of your decision process. What led you to work with HRMS Solutions? And did you consider doing it on your own?
We did not consider doing it on our own. We had a very small team of 4 people, 1 payroll person, 1 benefits, and 2 HR. And there was no way with that and the mergers and acquisitions activity that we'd be able to do it on our own. And so in comes HRMS, and they were able to absorb a lot of the work that we would have had to do on our own. We would have never been able to do it just with us.
Thank you for that. And you worked with Jenny on the project, is that right?
Yes, and here we are. Jenny, it's been what, 3 years now?
I know. It's been
I can't believe it.
I know.
And I just can't let her go. Clearly.
I love it. Customers for life.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That
Friends
is great.
too, maybe.
And Jenny, maybe you can shed a little bit of light about, what a implementation with an HRMS looks like versus having customers, go about it on their own. What are some of the things that a consulting firm can bring to the table?
So what we can bring, and any consulting firm, but what HRMS brings is we get together with a client and we do that deep dive into what they're currently doing. what's working, what's not, and really work on addressing what they're, as I always say, if I had a magic wand, what are your wishes moving into the new system? So we can work hand in hand with the client to make sure that they're getting what they need into their new system, and ensuring that it's not just a lift and shift. We jump in and we help, understand some of the speak that comes along with a new HCM system, and make it so it's understandable. And then we also do jump in and help provide day-to-day help. If, as Amanda was saying, they had a really small team, and so the bandwidth just wasn't there for all of the activities that needed to be completed. So we as HRMS assisted with that as well. So it's jumping in, it's helping, providing best practices, recommendations, solutions, and sometimes even questioning why they're doing a certain process, to help, to say, help me understand why you're doing this, and have you thought about this way? And then to help them get comfortable with the system, because they're going into this brand new system and they don't know what they don't know. And we bring that knowledge and expertise along with the additional help for the client.
So helpful. And that, constructive challenge during the process, coming from a place of having gone through, hundreds and hundreds and, in some cases, thousands of these, as you look at HRMS as a whole, I know that that's very helpful. Amanda, what was it like to work with HRMS?
It was awesome. One of the things that I tend to have a lot of questions, and I want to know why things work the way that it's very similar to what Jenny was saying. I want to know why things do what they're doing, why the system is set up that way, how it should be set up, and then, well, here's how we do it, and here's how we want to do it. And the problem solving and collaboration was probably the biggest impact on my end. I'm going to ask a million questions beforehand, and I can't always get that from, even at UKG, they have a million different clients. They may not have time to answer all of my little questions, but Jenny is going to be there. She was there for every single one that I had. And that was huge. We're very unique with our setup, allowing our agencies to have as much access as they do, but only to their agencies, and many other very specific things. And so she was able to problem solve with us. And a lot of times on screen, we're doing it together. Like, well, what if we do this? And what if we do this? And yeah, we can make this work. Or nope, we've tried everything. So that was huge.
And in terms of, HRMS being an extension of your team, did they bring expertise to the table around the UKG suite? And, how did that impact your project?
Yeah. So along with that strategizing, we would get on the phone, and during implementation, you're making decisions that are going to live with you forever, right? So we would ask them, hey, what can we do? What should we do? Where is this going to cause us issues? And weighing all the risks throughout our entire decision, having someone that knew everything about the system and being able to help us make the right decision based on how we're set up was absolutely critical. And we wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise.
That is great to hear, and certainly echoes what so many of the reviews that we get from HRMS's customers say as well. My next question is around the measurements of success that you had for your implementation. What were some of the KPIs or the metrics that mattered to you and to Patriot?
I think the biggest one, especially when you're rolling out a new payroll system, right, is the least amount of disruption to the employee profile population. And I would say there was a lot of hiccups for us during the whole process, but from a employee facing perspective, they didn't see nearly half of that, right? We were able to work with Jenny and the HRMS team to make sure that was as alleviated as possible on the employee side.
And Jenny, what were some of the KPIs that that you were looking at as you were going through the process with Patriot?
Well, the end goal, of course, is a successful payroll and happy with the system. I mean, I know that sounds very canned, but that's really what we strive for. And also for me personally, building that good relationship with the client, becoming that, trusted and valued advisor.
And based on the fact that you've been working together for 3 years, I would say mission accomplished. So
Yes.
Yes.
That's great. As with any implementation, there are going to be challenges that come up. Amanda, what were some of the challenges that you had and how did you overcome them?
So during implementation, we have a unique setup where a lot of our employees are paid on a commission basis. It's essentially their salary for the entire year. And as we were processing payroll, we had this one specific, the first payroll, benefit deductions weren't pulling through for anybody that was on a commission. And so it was all hands on deck. Like everybody, Jenny's dropping calls to join ours and help us get payroll processed like that. Those are the types of things that HRMS has been there for.
So the responsiveness
absolutely.
was a really important and critical one.
Yeah.
That is great to hear and so important, in an implementation, have a partner who
and she knew exactly like, okay, I know why it's not pulling it and we just have to figure out how to fix it now. It was great.
As you went through the process, so much of the time we hear clients talking about the importance of change management to a successful rollout to ensure that employees are actually adopting the system at the end. How did you handle change management internally? And what would be some of the recommendations that you'd had to other customers in regard to this area?
Yeah, we sent a lot of instruction manuals, which HRMS helped us prep. But we sent a lot of instructions to employees, tried to give as much advance notice as possible. Regardless of how much advance notice you give, there's always going to be a challenge. Looking back, I think it would have been great if we had one dedicated person to help with, I don't think we did any video trainings. I wish we had done those. Not a lot of people read. So when you send an email, they're not going to read it. And then all of a sudden they don't know what's going on. So just if we had had more of that training in every capacity, video, something to refer back to written, and maybe like a live, hey, let's just all join at a certain time to help with troubleshooting, that would have been great. Nothing that we thought about at the time, clearly.
So omni-channel, appealing to every different type of learner internally.
Yeah.
That really makes sense. And Jenny, what about from your perspective? What are some of the areas of change management that you would, have a company consider if they're about to do an implementation?
So for that, what I would consider is asking if they have a communication plan. When are they going to start letting the employees know they're making this change, and how often that communication is going to be, and then create a training plan. To Amanda's point, at that time we didn't have a huge plan, but the one thing we like to recommend now is that we have this training plan. How are you going to train your administrative users? How are you going to train your managers? How are you going to train your employees? And then talk to the client about what kind of training works best for your team. Not, as Amanda was saying, not everybody reads. So we provide that whole gamut of trainings where we will make training videos. We also have user guides. They're many pages, but then we also provide little cheat sheets, 1-page cheat sheets, how to log in, how to submit your time. And we recommend that to all of our clients at this point, just because we've seen things and we've learned as we move forward that those are very important. And it really makes a big difference starting with that information up front.
Yeah. And, definitely those best practices that you know from just having done this so many times.
Right.
is one of the huge benefits, I think, of working with HRMS for a customer who's doing this for the first time. In terms of the end result now, so looking back, what were the impacts that this project had on your business?
So it was a lot. We were acquiring agencies. We didn't stop doing that. It happened to be our biggest year, and so it was a lot to manage and juggle between onboarding hundreds of new employees on top of implementing a brand new payroll system. First time I've ever implemented a payroll system as well. So it was a lot to handle, but we had a small population at that point. It was probably only 500 employees. And so it was a little easier than if we were doing this right now. And I should mention, when we implemented, it was right after the UKG merger as well. And so there were a lot of changes taking place at that same time. It was harder to pull some guides because they changed the view. And so Jenny was really awesome and hey, let's grab new screenshots. We'll help with, getting new guides together. That UKG does provide guides, but at that point they were not reflective of what we had. So yeah, they were just there to help us through the whole thing.
That's great. And do your employees like the system? Is there
they loved it.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a prior system. They were used to going to one place for everything, which was great. So it made it a lot easier to just transition. Hey, you just have to log into this new place. And with the screenshots, they were able to adapt pretty well. We had a couple people that technology not something that they love, so there was a little bit of a struggle there. But from an adaptability perspective, it was pretty easy for them to just quickly switch over. They saved it in their bookmarks and they were good to go.
Love it. If you had to give some advice to a customer about to go through an implementation, what are some of the things that you would tell them, or some of the lessons learned that you'd want them to know?
My first suggestion is to make sure that they have a partner to help them. There's not a chance we would have made educated decisions without having HRMS, having a specialist, a UKG specialist that knew everything about the system and could also troubleshoot how we wanted things to be. We would have made some really bad decisions on implementation that can really cause issues with how you utilize the system down the road. So I would say that's number one. It might not be, they might have a team that can help, but just at least having someone that knows UKG and then also can learn about your company and can apply them together was something you can't undo implementation in a lot of ways. Like some of the ways that you set up the system, it's how it's going to be, and you'll cause a lot of heartache for your team if you don't set that up right the first time.
Yep. And Jenny, how about you? What advice would you have to a customer about going through an implementation?
Make sure, my advice would be, of course, engage HRMS consulting, but to also be prepared for the change that's coming, to be open to ideas and suggestions, to be committed to the change and have the resources needed to make that change.
Yeah. I mean, those sound simple.
I know.
We see a lot of, when those things do not happen, it's the wheels come off the bus really quickly.
They do.
So yeah, really, really wise there. Well, Jenny, if a customer is looking to implement UKG, what's the best way to engage HRMS?
They can go to our website, hrmssolutions.com, and reach out to Mike Marino, who is our CEO and salesperson, and he will be all over it, getting in touch with them. He's a great guy and he's got a lot of knowledge. So they can start with that process. If they reach out to an HRMS consultant, we'll just simply refer them to Mike. So we let him get the ball started on that.
And I would add to that, Raven Intel has so many reviews from previous customers to take a look at as well. And we certainly will be happy to connect you along to Mike and the HRMS team as well. Well, Amanda and Jenny, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story. We're so glad to hear it.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thanks for having us.